Coming up on today's show, Jaguar announces a race series for the I-Pace EV, Mercedes-Benz becomes the first automaker to produce a plug-in hydrogen hybrid electric car, and a Nissan Leaf drives to Mongolia with a Panda on board. These stories and more coming next on 10. Like all our content, today's show is funded by the in-stream ads on today's video and by the kind donations of viewers like you. Follow the link at the end of today's video to make a monthly donation to our Patreon crowdfunding campaign to help keep us independent and impartial. And if you're already donating, thanks for your continued support. It's Friday, September 14th, 2017. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield, and it seems that the summer slowdown in EV news is now officially over. So much so, there's so much news I can't fit it all in today's show, but I'm going to do my best to deliver as much of the important news as I can, so on with the show. We're going to start this week with the news that the US House of Representatives has unanimously approved the Self-Drive Act of 2017, officially known as HR 3388. Designed to remove some of the barriers to testing, building and owning fully autonomous cars, the bill will give the US Department of Transportation authority to set the standards for autonomous vehicle use across the US, as well as set up driver education programs so that all road users are familiar with the various levels of automation now being developed. With the bill now passed the House, it will move to the Senate for consideration and hopefully from there will be passed into law. Watch this space. Nearly a year after it first announced a mild refresh to the eGolf to give it an EPA-approved 125 miles of range per charge, Volkswagen has officially priced the 2017 eGolf for the US market. Available from $31,315, including mandatory delivery fees, but not including any local or national incentives, the 2017 eGolf is just like its predecessor. It's not all that competitively priced. But with a larger 100 kilowatt motor and longer range pack, the eGolf will surely attract those who like the legendary build quality of Volkswagen's iconic hatchback. When it launched late last year, the Chevrolet Bolt EV was given an EPA-approved range of 238 miles per charge from its 60 kilowatt-hour battery pack. And since then, we've seen plenty of people achieve 300 miles, 482 kilometers, on a charge in real-world conditions. But this week, we heard that Automobile, a European TV show, managed to drive the Bolt's European twin, the Opel Ampera E, for a staggering 754.9 kilometers, that's 469 miles, before running the battery flag. Admittedly, they did so at the kind of average speeds you'd see on city surface streets, but it just goes to show that with some hypermiling skills, it's possible to beat those official range estimates. Just don't try it yourself, okay? Talking of ratings, Honda announced this week that its Clarity plug-in hybrid has been given an official electric-only range by the EPA of 47 miles, something which it claims puts it at the top of the class among plug-in hybrids. The Clarity plug-in hybrid is, of course, one of two plug-in cousins to the Clarity hydrogen fuel cell sedan. The sharp-minded among you may question how Honda is claiming a class best for the Clarity plug-in hybrid, especially when the Chevy Volt range-extended EV travels further per charge. Well, it turns out that the Clarity is just a few inches longer than the Volt and thus goes up into the next size class, a technicality which helps Honda but doesn't impress in the real world. If you've been watching this show for any length of time, you'll know about Cruze Automation, General Motors' autonomous vehicle division, which was acquired by GM earlier this year. And if you know about Cruze, you probably also know about its fleet of prototype self-driving Chevrolet Bolt EVs, which have been involved in various pilot projects across the US. Well, this week in a blog post on Medium, Kyle Vogt, founder and CEO of Cruze, proclaimed GM has everything it now needs to mass produce a Level 5 fully autonomous car, and he knows because GM recently produced 100 third-generation autonomous Bolt EVs, to Cruze specifications on one of its regular production lines. The cars, says Vogt, will be used in a ride-sharing program with Cruze and GM employees for now, complete with a human minder. But moving forward, it appears that GM is further ahead in the autonomous vehicle program than some had previously thought. British firm Jaguar has really been focusing hard on plug-in vehicles lately, entering the Formula E race series and preparing its first ever electric car, the Jaguar I-Pace crossover SUV, for a market launch next year. And this week in Frankfurt, the brand went one step further, announcing a brand new Arrive and Drive championship called the I-Pace E-Trophy. Due to be held between qualifying and race proper of each of the 5th season of Formula E races, the iPace E Trophy will see up to 20 race-prepared iPace cars face off in short 30-minute events. It'll not only entertain Formula E fans, but it's also a great way to refine the iPace for production late next year and get some serious publicity points in for the bargain. It's a very, very clever move. I maybe should have noted this at the top of today's show, but if you wondered why there wasn't a show last week, it was because I was on my way back home after attending the official world premiere of the 2018 Leaf electric car. With an expected EPA range of 150 miles per charge, that's around 241 kilometres, the new 2018 Nissan Leaf isn't going to win the range wars. But it's priced less than the outgoing Leaf, and Nissan hopes that its lower price will offer enough range to get more people behind the wheel of an electric car for the first time. Sadly, I didn't get a chance to drive it, but so far I'm impressed. The highest-end Nissan Leaf also comes with an optional semi-autonomous technology package courtesy of Nissan's ProPilot, and for those who are willing to wait, there's a longer-range, higher-performance version due in about a year's time. Watch this space. Aside from Tesla unlocking the full capacity of customers' software-limited Model S and Model X 60 kWh battery packs last week so that they could escape Hurricane Irma, the most important thing that makes Tesla Model S, Model X and Model 3 ownership so pleasant is Tesla's global network of supercharger stations. After all, they offer a convenient and quick way to refuel your Tesla without having to worry about RFID cards, membership subscriptions, or any of the other headaches associated with non-Tesla DC quick charging. Traditionally, Tesla has focused its superchargers along major highways outside of urban areas, except curiously in London. But this week, Tesla unveiled a new, more compact supercharger design called the Urban Supercharger, specifically for use in tight spaces in major cities. Sure, it's not as powerful, it maxes out at 70 kilowatts, but Tesla hopes to use the new Urban Supercharger to help customers in large cities refuel their Teslas without having to venture miles into the burbs to do so. While I personally prefer battery electric vehicles over hydrogen fuel cell cars, I've long maintained that plug-in hydrogen fuel cell cars, where a large battery pack is supplemented by a fuel cell operating as a range extender, would be a far better choice for the future than a plug-in hybrid with an internal combustion engine. And this week, finally, the first vehicle to ever make use of a plug-in hydrogen hybrid drivetrain was announced. Meet the Mercedes-Benz GLC FCell, a zero-tailpipe emission variant of the GLC which, when it goes into limited production in 2 years, will offer an all-electric range of around 30 miles before its fuel cell will need to turn on to add extra range. It's a good idea in theory, but it's a heavy ride with a limited top speed of just 100 miles per hour and a whole load of expensive tech on board. Will it catch on? Well, not in the private market, but I can see fleets going absolutely gaga about it. Another vehicle that will get fleets excited is the Daimler Sueso eCanter electric truck, which the firm announced is about to enter into series production and will be available across Europe, Asia and the US. With a payload of £10,000, that's about 4,553 kilos, and a range of 60 miles, 100 kilometres, it might seem a little limited in its performance, but as it happens, that's more than enough for most inner-city delivery routes, where a zero-emissions truck would fit the bill perfectly. Although official production is just beginning, the Sueso eCanter is already scheduled to head to Japan, where 7-Eleven have committed to purchasing 25 units for use as delivery vehicles in and around Tokyo. And with Tesla quietly pushing the launch of its highly anticipated Tesla Semi back by a month this week, it seems that Daimler may have the upper hand this time. Sticking with the Daimler family one last time this show, I've got to mention the all-new Mercedes-Benz EQA compact crossover concept that debuted this week in Frankfurt. Supposedly previewing the new A-Class sized EV that we can expect to see from the brand in about 2 years' time, the EQA promises around 200 miles, 320 kilometres of real-world driving, a 5-second 0 to 60 sprint time, super-fast next-generation CCS DC quick charging capabilities, and wireless inductive charging as standard. Fitting below the EQ concept SUV we saw last year, the EQA does appear to fit the bill nicely, but as always, we won't know for sure how serious Benz is until we see it in the flesh on dealer lots. And because some of you asked me to, Mercedes-Benz also unveiled its AMG Project One hypercar in Frankfurt this week, which combines a 1.6-litre V6 with all-wheel drive quad-motor electric action in a super-fast Formula One inspired car that will cost a cool $2.8 million. Enough said. Staying with Frankfurt, Volkswagen unveiled its refreshed version of the ID Cross electric concept SUV there this week, as well as announcing a doubling down on its commitment to electric cars, promising to supplement an earlier €10 billion commitment with an expanded budget of €70 billion by 2030, just so that it can do what it takes to become a world leader in electric cars. Interestingly, $50 billion of that is slated to be spent exclusively on battery technology, but with very little to show for it thus far. Even if the latest ID Cross concept looks far more ready for market than the one we saw 6 months ago, Volkswagen is going to have to do a whole lot more work before many take it seriously in a post-Dieselgate world. And if that wasn't enough, on Thursday, Volkswagen announced its participation in a €36 million autonomous vehicle pilot program across Europe. While finances are still low for the company, it's clear that it really is pushing as hard as it can for its survival. So it's going to be interesting to see just what happens next. Volkswagen's luxury brand Audi also had a fair bit to share in Frankfurt this week, debuting not one but two autonomous vehicle concepts, the Icon and the Elaine. While the names are a little bit bizarre, the Icon is a distant future vision of what an autonomous car could be, ditching traditional driver control devices in a futuristic, far-off tone that's more Blade Runner than anything else. Meanwhile, the Elaine, with its 370 kilowatt all-wheel drive electric drivetrain and 95 kilowatt-hour battery pack, is supposedly a preview of a Level 4 autonomous vehicle Audi hopes to bring to market in the near future. There's no word on pricing, but if it does reach production, it's going to be quite the looker. It's probably one of the most iconic cars ever made, is instantly recognisable around the world, and as rumour would have it, is one of the reasons the UK decided to institute speed limits on motorways that were previously unrestricted back in the 1960s. When it launched, the eType Jaguar was powered by the famous inline six known as the XK, but now, thanks to the clever folks at Jaguar Land Rover's classic car division, it's been reborn as a high-performance all-electric model. There's a 40 kilowatt-hour battery pack, some 170 miles of range, and more than 200 kilowatts at your disposal. But sadly, this is a one-off vehicle built to preview Jaguar Land Rover's commitment to electric cars. But knowing it exists is just enough to make me want to drive it. I wonder if they'll let me. And finally, if I had £1 or $1 every time someone told me that electric cars were only good in the urban jungle, I'd be pretty rich by now. But now, when someone tells me that sad old tale, I can tell them about Chris and Julie Ramsey, aka Plug-in Adventures, who've just successfully completed the Mongol Rally in a Nissan Leaf. Yep, you heard me. London to Mongolia in a Nissan Leaf. Not only did they make some amazing friends along the way, but proved that electric cars are here to stay, can do whatever you want them to, and raised money for WWF Scotland to boot. You can even head to the Plug-in Adventures website to donate now if you haven't yet.
Oh, and my furry side has to give a shout out to the Panda mascot who accompanied Chris on the trip. Looking good, buddy. Looking good. Yes.
And on that triumphant note, it's time for me to say goodbye for the week. As always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss an episode. And if you like what I'm doing, why not contribute to the show's costs via Patreon? I've left a link at the end of this video and in the description below. As usual, I'll be back next week with more Transport Evolved goodness. So until then, thanks for joining me. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield. That was 10. Have a great weekend, and until next time, keep evolving.